This is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency space. My guest today is Alejandro Gutierrez. Alejandro is the co-founder and operations lead at Defactor, an early pioneer in the adoption of real-world assets into the burgeoning DeFi space. Hey, welcome to the show, Alejandro.
Thank you very much, Andy, for having us, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Hey, it is a pleasure to have you here, my man. Look, let's just start at the beginning. We'll do what I always like to do, which is ask you to please introduce yourself. Love to just hear a little bit about your background. Where are you from? What have you been doing in the lead up to the founding of Defactor?
Great. Yeah, so I'm from Colombia, and my background is in production and industrial engineering. And out of that, I started getting very interested in the supply chain and logistics. Funny enough, that's kind of my family business. I've been involved for years in that space. And after gaining some experience in Colombia, in the States, I decided to go to Australia and start my master's degree. So I did a master's in supply chain management and transportation management, and took a long stint into the consulting side and worked for multiple ASX 200 companies in Australia, and everything that has to be with supply chain management, procurement, supply chain strategy, network optimizations. And from that point, in 2017, decided to move into Dublin. My wife is Irish, so we just relocated here and started to get really interested in the blockchain space, right? First, it was from the traceability and provenance point of view, because that's one of the areas that started to develop fairly quickly, and well, for me, it was pretty interesting. Sorry. And after that, I started to realize that the DeFi space could be fantastic opportunity to solve a lot of the liquidity issues that people in the supply chain space, in the logistics space, and international commerce will have. And that's how we came with a concept that was called a concept in the trade finance space. The idea was to extract liquidity from the DeFi using assets as collateral, and providing this liquidity to companies in need in the international commerce space.
Right. So if I understand you correctly, Alejandro, you're saying that so you moved to Dublin. You're based in Dublin. You're all across the supply chain logistics industry, and then you started working with companies or products like Centrifuge and Maker, early DeFi protocols and the like, and you're providing some liquidity and a financial lifeline to some of these companies in the logistics industry. So that's quite early. I suppose that's the early beginnings of DeFi, and from there you founded Defactor. Is that correct?
That's correct. So in 2018, we started working with the guys from MakerDAO. We met them in event actually in Austria. Yeah. And from that point, we started to just build a relationship that is still standing. We have another company called Consolfrey, and Consolfrey was one of the pioneers to bring real world assets into the DeFi space. We did a pilot with MakerDAO, and from that, that relationship evolved into being the first asset originator to have a revolving liquidity pool in Centrifuge, right? We are the longest standing pool running in centrifuge at the moment, right? Our experience, right, in the DeFi space just kind of led us to think that the opportunity is fantastic, but the DeFi space is fairly mature, is fairly young. And in order for more asset originators like Concentrate to come and tap into the liquidity that the DeFi space can provide, there need to be a lot of changes from the operational side, right? From the onboarding, but also how you tap into that liquidity and make it easier for everybody that is not an expert in the blockchain space. At the moment, using wallets on ramp of fiat is still tricky and difficult. So the idea behind Defactor, right, is just trying to solve all these operational issues, all these components that we see, and that will make a bit more mainstream the use of liquidity in the DeFi space, and you see it as an alternative source as any other liquidity that is out there.
Right. And again, that makes sense as well, Alejandro. But obviously, if the idea is to, help businesses around the world who are struggling to access traditional finance, DeFi is certainly one solution that could help them. But of course, it's still early days. DeFi has not matured yet, and there's obviously different regulations around the world which could help or hinder you depending on where these businesses are located. So how, in that sense, how does Defactor, I suppose, help reduce the barrier to entry to these businesses being able to access different forms of liquidity as required?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, right, what we're bringing into the table is a whole suite of solutions, right, that is going to allow the people just to tap directly as we are doing all the due diligence on behalf of these asset originators, right? Yep. So understanding financial structures, how or what is the easiest way to onboard these asset originators into liquidity pools that are out there in the DeFi space. And as I mentioned previously, all the technology that is required for them to keep transacting as they transact normally without disrupting these complex financial processes that they have established, right? Because that's one of the things when you are chatting with traditional financial companies, they have quite complex processes that when you are adding layers of complexity, is not scalable for them, right? They will be doing 1, 2 pilots, but after that, I will say, look, this is too complex. It's fantastic, great opportunity, but call me when it's simple. And that's exactly the vision behind. The idea is just to make a pipeline where everybody can just start. And also from the investor side, provide visibility, right? Or what are the assets that are being deemed as underlying or collateral to extract liquidity from the DeFi space.
And so how would you describe your progress in funding these real world assets and the roadmap for funding more assets in the future? I suppose, talk to that, and also, the end vision. What's the end goal for where you guys are heading with Defactor?
Yeah, so as an overall goal, right, our idea is just kind of redefine all the financial services that are out there using DeFi as a vehicle for this. We can see that there are a lot of assets in the real world that at the moment are completely liquid. Yeah. And the reason is not because they don't have any value. On the contrary, the reason is because traditional institutions are not able at the moment to assess risk in order to lend money against these traditional assets or these real world assets. And that's one of the things that the technology and the DeFi space can start in seeing more and more. I can give you an example. There are tons of, like say in Ireland, whiskey cask that are sitting in warehouses at the moment that the DeFi space could be providing liquidity against. right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
So, well, talk. Let's use that. That's a good example. So, okay. Well, talk to me. I actually, I like a whiskey myself, Alejandro.
that's great.
Yeah, love a single malt. I don't. I know less about Irish whiskies, but I know they make some good ones as well. So, well, if we use whiskey, the Irish whiskey houses, or even the Scottish whiskey houses as a real world example, so how would something like Defactor help an Irish whiskey house?
Yeah, definitely. So all these whiskey distilleries, right? They have a lot of assets under their management, and we can call those assets, let's say, cask or barrels, right?
Sure.
Even finished goods can be part of that. So the idea would be just you're having, let's say, the way it works is when you are aging these barrels, well, they need to be just kept in there. And usually, what these distilleries do is using some of the younger versions of the barrel, bottle them and sell them to just keep actually running the operations. But the problem with that is like the more bottles of young product that they are selling, well, less product then they're going to be having, right? For the real value that they can just take out of the whole production. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the
And,
idea here is, yeah, tell me.
well, no, sorry to interrupt. I was just, but it's fascinating because this is this is the thing in the whiskey industry around the world. Because I'm sure you're aware, but over the last 10 years or so, I suppose there's been huge growth in the whiskey market, in the single malt market, Irish whiskey, Scottish whiskey, Japanese whiskey. There's just a whiskey consumption around the world has shot up, even while kind of alcohol use in general, I think, is dropping. But the premium whiskey market is doing extremely well. Of course, what you're talking about with the aging process and the barrels and the casks is, to get that kind of high end premium whiskey, it needs to sit in these barrels or casks for anything from 10 to 20 years. So obviously that's a long time, and so it really is it's a conundrum for some of the smaller distilleries to be able to have enough product to sell, but also being able to put enough product away to age for the long term, right?
Yeah, I know it is a fine balance trick that they need to just do, right? And because if they sell too much product, then they're not going to have enough product later, and as you say, the consumption is just increasing dramatically, and the scarcity actually of the product as well. The reason why the product is increasing in price as well. You see the projections that are ridiculous. So, kind of our idea behind this is just helping these small distilleries, right, to tokenize those barrels and using those NFTs as a vehicle to access liquidity in the DeFi space, right? And this is going to be linked with the barrel having a physical tag to it. And let's say IoTs that are going to tell us at all time that that barrel is there, that is still there, that is not moved, and is not tampered with. So you need to have some sort of a physical way to verify that the asset has not been tampered, right? Because at the end
Yes.
of the day, that's what you're using as collateral. So the way that works is usually depending on the age of the barrel, they will be asking for different periods on how much they're going to be lending, and there is some mathematical models that will help us just to know exactly what is the most desirable long terms for each of the different ages. Um, and another thing that is that's pretty interesting and tell us that these type of services are extremely secure is the fact that all these whiskeys, when they're aging, most of them they are in bonded warehouses that are controlled by the government, meaning that in order for product to get out of there, there needs to be some special dispensation from the government, right?
Sure.
And when you have the cask on your custody, well, that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
So And that's it. These are services and products that DeFi can start explore. Companies in the DeFi space can start explore and creating more. Than like that, you will have the real art, pieces of art. You can do similar components, and this is no more than inventory finance, but you are using all the blockchain technology in order to just optimize the way that is done and just make it more secure from the financial point of view.
Yeah, I like it. And I think I can recall on your website you also use the example of the cannabis industry, which has a slightly different problem. I imagine it's not the cannabis industry in Dublin and Ireland, where you're based, Alejandro, is probably still, I don't think cannabis is legal in Ireland the way it is in several states and growing in the US. But of course, one of the problems is that, well, I think you probably understand it better than me, but a lot of people, due to the weird, the kind of state federal laws in the US, these kind of cannabis startups, which are doing very well. There's a huge demand for their product, but because of the vagaries of the state banking laws, they're unable to access banking services, which has led to some problems. So DeFi, is one solution here as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, we're chatting with some of those companies in the States. And finally, as you mentioned, the problem for them is not about liquidity, but actually creating some sort of credit and reporting that will allow them to access to some financial services. Yeah. So it's the opposite. And yeah, DeFi is same. It's perfect technology to just create some new services for these new digital economies and for these new economies, alternative economies that are growing dramatically around the whole world, right? Like one of the things that I was mentioning last year in a panel was like, try to imagine being a company that is providing services in the metaverse and going to your traditional bank and say, look, I provide services in the metaverse. I need a loan, right? What would be the face of the person across the counter saying, what are you talking about, right? These are the things that are coming, and they're coming pretty soon, right? But the traditional system is not ready for them yet. And I think DeFi is in a perfect position to get all these niche customers, these niche services, and as I say, just become a real source of financial services for the ones that are not included at the moment in the traditional system.
Yeah, and well, Alejandro, for companies that are perhaps looking to dip their toe into the world of decentralized finance, or they have a need to access some liquidity, perhaps outside the traditional financial system, and they may not be comfortable doing this themselves, so they'd want someone to assist them along that process, which I suppose is where a company like Defactor would come in. So I understand you have a service called a product called a Springpad. Is that sort of the entry point for companies looking to engage?
Yeah, correct. So Springpad is a program that we have created. It's like our launching pad. And the idea behind Springpad is helping probably smaller companies or companies that are not convinced that their process will work with the DeFi space. And while we're doing this, we're kind of doing this in cohorts. We're going to have 4 cohorts per year, and selecting between 3 and 5 companies, right? And these are small pilots that are going to just provide a segue for these companies, or some of these companies, to tap into the liquidity pools that are set up in the DeFi space, right? So it's that kind of pre-stage for them to familiarize on how it works, for us to explore as well different asset classes, because there are a lot of asset classes that at the moment we will not be ready to service. But these pilots will allow us actually to start just tapping into more asset classes and broaden our scope of services, right? Because that's one of the things. Right now, we have a strong focus on traditional financial services. Let's call it factoring, invoice accounting, inventory finance, trade finance. Those are things that are extremely comfortable. We know how to do, and we want to bring smaller companies and give them a chance. Exactly the same as it happened with us when we were just in the beginning of this journey. But as I say, like there are some other asset classes out there that can benefit dramatically from DeFi. Like for example, real estate is one that is there that a lot of people are looking at, and that we want to just tap on it. And after that as well, we start looking into the virtual assets as well, because with the boom that NFT has caused, there are opportunities there that we will be tapping at some point, right?
Very good, Alejandro. Well, look, as we start to finish off this part of the podcast, let's look to the future. What is on the roadmap? What's in the pipeline for you guys? I know you have a token as well, which we haven't talked about, so feel free to mention that. But what's happening for, I suppose, Defactor this year and beyond? What does the future look like?
Yeah, definitely. You allow me, maybe I can do a recap from our token launch. So our token launch was in November last year. It was successful. We raised enough capital to have the project running in the long term. The name of the token is Factor. And one of the things that we have done this year was fully integrating with Centrifuge. That is was an important milestone for us, and also onboarding our first as originator, that is Console Freight. That company is fully onboarded now. It has put more than $2 million already through the pipe that Defactor has built, and these are numbers that are kind of telling us that the opportunity is there and is ready for other actors to be used, right? For the near future, a couple of things are important. We are planning to onboard our second asset originator. It's an Irish company in the traditional financial space. Be providing more details pretty soon. The idea for that will be probably end of Q1, and there will be probably tripling the volume that we are pushing through Defactor, right? From funds placed. The idea for us would be at the end of the year, probably have $50 million placed through Defactor, and that's conservative, but we would like to over deliver for sure. And then on the tech side, we're working now that our partners of Centrifuge just won one of the slots in the parachains from Polkadot. We will be working on Polkadot just to create that integration as well. And also we are working with some other layer ones that will be disclosing pretty soon in order to be creating those pipes into liquidity pools that are already built, right, in these other protocols. We believe that we cannot just stay in one protocol. We need to just look for other alternatives, because this will allow us originators as well to have different risk profiles, and also there are going to be different investors that will like one service more than other, right? So the more variety that we have, better coverage we're going to have for us originators, a better fit for the services that they are providing, and risk profile from the investment point of view.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Alejandro. Well, let's go to a very quick break, and then we'll come back. We'll have some fun. We'll finish off with the very famous Crypto Conversation Hot Take Round.
For crypto indices and benchmarking, Brave New Coin's powerful indexing engine can calculate high-frequency intraday and end-of-day indices for a wide range of index products. Brave New Coin's custom indices team delivers experienced consultancy, premium data, and trusted calculation. Contact BNC today to find out more.
All right, we're back, and I'm with Alejandro Gutierrez. Alejandro is the co-founder and operations lead at Defactor, pioneering the entry of real-world companies with real-world assets into the DeFi space. Alejandro, I like to finish each podcast with a quick round of rapid-fire crypto conversation, hot takes, just a bit of fun. Are you up for it?
Yes, let's go for it.
All right, just want, quick, snappy answers, hot take style. No right or wrong way to do this. Question 1. Where would you say you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-coin opportunist spectrum?
Multi-coin for sure.
Yes, indeed. Anyone in DeFi has to say that. That's okay. What would you say, though, is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
That crypto will be the future of financing in the next 10 years.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, Bill Gates famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. So let's use DeFi here. Alejandro, what does DeFi look like in 10 years' time?
I think as an alternative, as a real alternative and a real competitor for the sources of liquidity that can plug the gap in many financial services like trade finance.
Works for me. I like it. All right, time to get a little bit weird. Time to zoom out. Alejandro, what do you see as the long-term future for the human race? Do you see dystopia or utopia? I said it was time to get weird.
Jesus Christ. I will see more dystopian world than utopian world, especially with all the advances in machine learning and optimization.
Yeah. Tend to agree, but always good to be optimistic as well. So I suppose, and look, finally, what is your favorite science fiction book, film, TV show, or universe?
Ooh, good question. Well, I think now that it was released, the updated version of it, Dune, is a really good one. I really enjoy the original, the book, the original movie, and I'm still waiting to see the second or the new version of it.
Yeah, I'm still waiting to see the new version as well. Yeah, haven't really been to see, I don't know, I haven't seen too many movies in the theatre of late. I did see the new Spider-Man with my family about 2 weeks ago. That was the first time we'd been to a theatre in about 2 years. But yeah, you do kind of need to see it for something like the new Dune, even the new Matrix. You want to see it on the big screen, but man, mixed reviews on the new Matrix. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't actually, but I think I've been disenfranchised since the third one, so I'm not sure that I'm willing to watch the last one.
yeah, fair enough. All right, well, hey, this has been a lot of fun. Alejandro, I've enjoyed speaking to you about DeFi, about Defactor, and about movies. Hey, nothing else to say except to hand the metaphorical microphone back to yourself. Please tell people where they should go to learn more about what you guys are building with Defactor and how they can engage your services if they wish.
Great. Thank you very much, Andy, for the opportunity. It was pretty fun, and I hope at some point we can do this again. Regarding Defactor, so the best place to go and start seeing what we're doing would be our webpage, www.defactor.com. You have all the links to the communities there, Discord, Telegram, Twitter, LinkedIn if you're a little bit more old school. And look, we are in those channels. We are fairly accessible. And if you want to just have a chat with us, just contact us. We are here to just help the community and just grow this DeFi ecosystem as much as we can.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All the best, and bye for now.
Thank you.